All right, I think we have everything set up now and the meeting is recording. So thanks everyone for your patience as we work through all the technical difficulties and make sure that everyone has the ability to speak and hear us. So I'll just start off saying good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Artie White. I am the Administrator of Comprehensive Planning in the Tallahassee-Leon County Planning Department. And I appreciate everyone's time and your ability and willingness to join in and participate in this. This is part one of a two-part charrette. This part tonight mostly focuses on the map that most of you should see in front of you. If you kind of see a grid of people, you may want to switch it over to an active speaker view. There should be an option in the top right to do so. The other part of this is on the same place where you logged in to register to join this, and that part is focused mainly on the wording of each of the objectives and policies of the master plan. On that same website, you can also find a recording of the previous video conferences that we've had. So if you want to see what the discussion was like on any of the previous ones, they're on a YouTube link there, so you can stream those. We do intend to do in-person charrettes later, given the state and the phase of the overall reopening plan at the time. So we'll want to make sure that we're consistent with the CDC guidance and the other guidance at the time to make sure that we do that in a safe and healthy kind of way. But do check the website back in a month or so, and there should be opportunities or some more information about that coming soon. In case we have multiple commissioners join tonight, I will just kind of note for the record that we did notice this meeting and that it is open to the public. I know early on we were kind of doing it in format to try to keep the group small, but we opened it up to everyone because we want to make sure that we are consistent with Sunshine Law. So just making sure that everyone is aware of that. With that, I'll actually hand it over to Devin to facilitate the majority of this charrette. So thank you. You're muted, Devin.
Thanks, Artie. One question real quick, Artie. Do we know who the two folks are on the phone? Do we have a name for both of those folks just to have a record?
I know that one of them is Michelle Homowicki from Growth Management. I'm not sure who the other caller is.
Are they muted right now or unmuted?
They're both unmuted.
Could the second caller on the phone just let us know who's on the phone so we know who's out there?
Hey there, this is Beth or Elizabeth Hollister. I couldn't get the audio to work through my computer, so I called in.
Oh, perfect. Okay, no problem, Beth. That works perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead. If it would help, Beth, I can email you the map so you can see what Devin and Floyd are talking about if you don't have a copy already.
Sure, that would be nice.
Okay,
thank you.
I'll have it on its way to you now.
All right, just a little bit of housekeeping real quick. Everybody will be muted at first. We'll have everybody muted. And if any point you want to speak, you can unmute yourself, but we do have tech support in the background. We've been getting feedback on some of these. So to limit that feedback, again, everyone will be muted from the start. And if there's any time that you want to jump in on the conversation or ask a question, I'll be watching all the screens on my screen. So if you do have your camera on and you wave, I can see that you're waving. Or if you give me like just a motion. If you don't have a screen on, feel free to put something into the chat message or the Q&A, and we'll be monitoring those as well. With that, what we've done in some of the other ones is we've really just kind of had an open discussion about the Welaunee Arch and the land that you see on the map. Some of the things that have come up so far, we've talked about wildlife corridors, schools, regional stormwater facilities, access, housing, really anything that goes along with development has been on the table. And those things are not off the table. Just wanted to kind of give everybody an idea of what has been talked about. I think most folks we have tonight are new to the conversation, or at least folks that we haven't seen on the charrettes before. So I'm glad to see everybody here and that you were able to make it out. With that, just so we all get familiar with the site, I want to hand it over to Floyd and just get Floyd to give us a quick description of the map, where we're at, and get everybody's bounds so everyone knows exactly what we're talking about. Floyd, do you mind doing that for us?
Sure thing, man. And y'all let me know if y'all can't hear me or see something. This is basically what we're talking about tonight. This is the part of the arch. This black dashed line around here is essentially the boundary around this property here. Just for context, it's a Centerville Road right here. This is I-10 right here. This is Miccosukee Road and Miccosukee Greenway, the green hatch that we kind of sketched in here all the way up and down. This is Buckhead neighborhood right here. This is Roberts and Mumford schools up here. This is Roberts Road. So that kind of gives you an overall context. Just for scale, if you're kind of wondering how big this is, y'all can see my fingers okay. Let me know if you can't. This red bar here is about a mile. It's 5,000 feet. And so each one of these numbers here represent 1,000 feet. So that way you just have an idea, how far across something is here. You've got the green dashed here around here. That's the Greenway's master plan that we have, to go around the property here. So that's pretty much the context there. And then kind of how we got to where we are with the map today. Basically, folks come in all the time and say, hey, I got a piece of property, want to know what I can do with it, what my options are. And so we sit down and just try to help put that in a visual graphic sense for them to look at. So this, we treated it no differently. We basically started out, okay, here's the boundary. We got the constraints, we got the Greenway's master plan, thing here, put that on there. We know generally there's going to be some type of north-south road. That's the blueprint project that's in the works and public comment and all that type of stuff now. And then we started looking at environmental stuff. This kind of overall blue hatch is the 100-year flood. And then within that, you'll have the wetlands, some karst features, drainage ways, things like that are within that. So we basically hatched that on there and said, okay, well, that's definitely off the table. Can't get in there and start doing anything. And then the purple, the tan, and the orange is essentially what's left. That doesn't mean that that's 100% going to be developed. That's just basically, what needs to be studied further. Within that, you'll have habitats, environmental sensitive areas, forests, things like that that'll need to be preserved and set aside. And those things have to be identified as this process moves along. But that pretty much kind of brings it up to where we are today.
Awesome. Thanks, Floyd. And with that, I want to just kind of give everybody an idea of who's on the call so you guys get an idea of which staff's here. So from the planning department, you have myself and Floyd. Both of us work with our design team and special projects. You have Mindy Mormon, who's our urban forester. Artie White, you guys know him because of comp planning. He's introduced himself. We have Mary Jean Yarborough from our land use division. She would be here because of PUDs or any of that part that we would get to as this development, if there were development to move forward. We also have from growth management, John Reddick. And Michelle Humwicki is on the phone with us. She's an engineer with growth management. And then we also have Commissioner Rick Miner. And then we also have Chris Klena, who is here for Commissioner Deloge. I believe that's correct, right, Artie, for Commissioner Deloge? Artie's muted.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, thanks, Artie. So you do have representation from your commission on this as well tonight. Just want to let everybody know who was here, and that way, if you have any questions for us, just kind of let us know. We also have a blueprint representative, Dan Shear. So if there's any questions about any blueprint projects in the area, he'll be able to answer those. If you have a question when you're speaking, just let us know who you are before your first question and who you represent. And with that, is there anybody that wants to kick it off and talk about the site or have any specific questions? Will, if you want to jump, I know you've been on here before. Is there anything that you came back that you had a question about that you want to kick us off with? Unmute, Will. You just muted yourself.
I know there's been a traffic study done. Do we have any idea of the traffic count that will be moving through Welaunee? Or is there any way to predict that?
Yes, this is Dan from Blueprint. I can help with that question. At this particular moment, I don't have the traffic modeling in front of me, but we did do an exhaustive traffic modeling study, and we studied a number of different alignments, including, stopping at the Shamrock extension, the proposed Shamrock extension, also going all the way up to Roberts and numerous iterations of those particular different alignments and connections, lateral connections throughout. So we do have an exhaustive traffic modeling study, and if you send me an email, I can get you that information. It was part of the public record in December and January's IA board meetings when we were studying the substantial amendment to the subject project, the Walani Boulevard project. So that traffic modeling data is out there for public record. I'm happy to share it with you and get it to you. But we did do an exhaustive traffic modeling study to predict, and it's not number of cars. It's actually what we call number of trips. So it's how many times vehicles would pass that particular area and how many trips are made. So it's just a different connotation, but you could, I guess, from an order of scale magnitude, you could call it, traffic counts, but it's not really traffic counts. They're just trips, and they do vary throughout the day from peak hour to off peak hour. But it was studied as a daily AADT, what we call average annual daily traffic. So, but I'm happy to provide that to you if you'd like it. But yes, a traffic model has been completed for the Welaunee Boulevard, and it is part of the public record. And
the last I heard was that the planned construction of Welaunee Boulevard was to, they were going to, I know that it's been built through Canopy, but the second leg, I guess, across the interstate into Roberts Road, when will construction on that begin? I was told, I've heard 2022, and then I heard 2025. And I guess as a follow-up question to that, if it is 2025, and maybe Commissioner Minor could speak to this, is it because of the concern of a lack of sales tax revenue for the projects, or is this Welaunee Boulevard already funded and not going to, and it isn't delayed?
So I can answer all those questions. This is Dan again from Blueprint. The project is fully funded as part of the Blueprint 2020 program, and the process that we're going through right now is the PD&E process, the Project Development and Environmental Study, which is a what we call a NEPA process, which is the National Environmental Policy Act process, and we're using, these are a lot of acronyms, a SEER process, which is a State Environmental Impact Report process. So there's a whole bunch of acronyms and a whole bunch of things in there, but we are basically in the planning study right now of developing corridors and alignments and studying those. And then, one of those will rise to the top as the preferred alignment for meeting the project criteria, but also minimizing any of those impacts that we study, which is cultural, historical, environmental, traffic, environment, all of the above. It's a very well laid out process, but the project is fully funded. We do expect to start construction in the 2022-2023 timeline, and opening year is what we're calling it, is 2025. So we anticipate removing the traffic barrels and letting traffic flow along the Welaunee Boulevard in 2025.
Oh, okay, so you'll actually start construction in 2022 is what you're saying?
Yeah, fingers crossed and God willing, yes, that's the goal.
One last comment, and I've made this before, and so don't laugh when I say it again, but for the commissioners that are here, it makes complete sense that the transmission lines are buried in Canopy, right? Right until the middle, they pop up right in the middle, and I think that's the city's property, and then they run straight across the interstate. It's about 2 miles, I think, at the most. And I know that I've heard numbers tossed around what it would cost to bury those transmission lines. But it just makes sense that the commissioners would have a discussion about a gateway into our city, which I think this is, where they would have a planned development like the Mettler's property and bury those transmission lines similar to Southwood. Just to me, it makes sense. So I would hope you guys would consider that.
Hey, Devin, if you don't mind, I'll go respond to Will.
Sure.
Will, thanks for being on the call. Thanks for taking the time to be here. I think that's a really good discussion that we need to have. It's expensive, but it's worth it in the long term, in my opinion. When you think about putting lines underground, I think on the county commission, our decision making on that will be very limited. The county commission has one more vote on this master plan, and that's for the final adoption that's going to be taking place probably later this year. Once that happens, the city commission will then be the main drivers on the planning and details on traffic, stormwater, and a whole host of green space, whole host of other things. So the last time that the county commission has any kind of significant input will be from now until the final adoption vote, which will be later this year. So what I and others are trying to do is make sure that anything that the county commission can do and have an influence on, it's kind of now in the next few months, and that'll probably be it. I think we need to have a discussion on that, and I'm glad you brought it up because I've been to almost all the other charrettes, and it's the first time we really had a discussion on it. So I'm taking a note. I want to make sure we bring it up with the other commissioners when we talk about this again. If nothing other than we put it on the radar to make sure that the city commission has a chance to go through it and consider it in detail going forward.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for following up on that one for him. I want to jump to Greg real quick. Greg has a question. And then I see Steve Martin next. And Steve, I'll come to you once we get Greg's question. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, more just of a comment. I'd like to reiterate that bearing on power lines as well, not only for this development in this property, but also I feel like there needs to be a net positive benefit for the communities that surround this property. There's a lot of impacts that this property is going to cause. And so I live in Miccosukee Meadows, which is right across Miccosukee Road on the Greenway there. And we have, I don't know, probably about 65 houses in our neighborhood. We have buried utilities in our neighborhood. However, our feeder lines come all the way down Miccosukee Road and are not buried. And so what happens is, although we have buried utilities in our neighborhood, every time there's a storm, power goes out because there's trees falling on the power lines along Miccosukee Road. In addition to that, if you look at the tree maintenance that's done on the Canopy Road, it's horrific. The utility crews come in and top the trees throughout the corridor. And so basically you're creating an unhealthy Canopy Road, which is just exacerbating the problem of having trees fall down, not only aesthetically, but ecologically, it's an impact as well. So the maintenance of the power lines along Miccosukee Road is not only done improperly, but it's causing an issue. So I think an easy solution would be to move those utility lines onto this property for those lines that feed the adjacent properties such as Miccosukee Meadows. I'm not sure about Arbor Branch. Kimberly Estates probably would benefit from that as well. So not only from a public safety side, after the hurricane, if you travel down Miccosukee Road with all the utility lines that were down with trees on them, but also from aesthetic and ecological value of maintaining the integrity of the Canopy Road and the Miccosukee Greenway. I think taking that line off of Miccosukee Road and running it up alongside the Greenway on this property would benefit the other properties and provide a net positive benefit.
Thanks, Greg. I think that's a really good comment and something we note. And as you guys will notice too, a lot of the comments that you're saying will get written down on the map. And then we also have someone taking notes in the background that's on our tech support as well. So if there's anything too that you want to add to those, just let us know as we're going through. Steve, you had a question. Just unmute yourself and you can speak.
Yeah. Okay. Just going back to traffic, your analysis, how far west did you go when you took account of what you expect the impacts to be? How far to the west of this property did your analysis cover?
Dan, can you come back in on that one?
Yeah, sure, Steve. Thanks for that question. So we analyzed where the state law 319 Thomasville Road, and basically our limiting area was Welaunee. Thomasville Road to Mayhem. Are you there?
Yeah. I was specifically dealing with Welaunee Boulevard, going west along it. How far west did your analysis go about anticipated impacts on traffic that direction? Did you go beyond this property to the west? And if so, how far to the west? So I'm not talking Thomasville. No, I'm talking west on Welaunee Boulevard. That goes to Fleischman and then to Capitol Circle and Blairstone. It turns into
in the southern section.
Okay,
in the southern section.
Here.
Okay.
So
Yeah, in the southern section. Okay, I thought we were talking about the arch, and
well,
the charrette
I mean,
was kind of
it's gonna,
focused on
it's
the
gonna
arch.
come
So I
over
apologize,
the
Steve.
arch, but it's gonna come over the arch. The Welaunee Boulevard is gonna be the major artery. So I'm talking about that artery going further west. Did your analysis cover that area down to Capitol Circle in particular?
Yeah, we ran, Steve, we ran traffic.
And
Are you there, Steve?
yeah, I'm here.
You broke
Okay.
out for a second, Dan.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm on my cell phone. Apologize. Steve, we basically, if I had to give you an idea of the limits of the traffic modeling, we studied Capitol Circle northeast from Mahan Road up to Thomasville Road, and then everything north of there in that wedge of Mahan and Thomasville Road all the way up to the Georgia state line. So that's the area of the study. So when you say west, I was thinking Thomasville Road's on the west end of our study area.
Right.
But we did use a regional traffic model. But the specific corridors that we did study were, basically Capitol Circle northeast, Thomasville on the west, Mahan on the east, and that wedge going all the way up.
Okay, because in particular, I'm talking about traffic when it converges down there at Capitol Circle, Blairstone, rush hour. It's already got problems. As canopies come in, it's added to the problems. And I cannot help but anticipate further, unless there's some master design, including a flyover across Capitol Circle. If those kinds of concepts have been taken into account, because I think the scale of this is such that you're going to have to do something at that scale. And I didn't know, but it doesn't sound to me like anybody's gone to that scale. But I'm just thinking that we've already got issues down there that are being accentuated with the development right now on the western end. And you add this east of that with Welaunee Boulevard as the major artery, bringing in traffic as well off Miccosukee and maybe Mahan. I think it's going to be a real problem. It's going to have to be addressed now. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Beth, I think you had a question as well. If you just unmute yourself, you should be able to join the conversation.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Beth Hollister, I don't know if I'm representing anybody, but I am a member of the League of Women Voters Local Government Committee and also a member of the Alliance for Tallahassee Neighborhoods, representing Woodland Drive. But I'm not necessarily, speaking on behalf of them. My question is really one of procedure and responsibility. So what I'm observing is that the planning department is the applicant for comp plan amendments, and now it seems like you're providing planning services to the owner. But so what kind of meaning will this have over time? I mean, I'm guessing that the Mettler family will, in X number of years, be hiring a civil engineering planning, maybe master planning team to, pull together the final development documents for this part of Welaunee. So how would all that work? I mean, what sort of, I don't know if legitimacy is the right word, but whatever we're doing in these charrettes, how meaningful will it be to the landowner over time and to the end result?
Good question, Beth. This has come up back actually in a couple of our other charrettes as well. I'm going to hand that one over to Artie because he's the one kind of compiling everything. Artie, can you answer that for Beth?
Yeah, and I'll admit that it's a little bit confusing with having the city as an applicant, but then the property actually being privately held. But the reason for that is, and it goes back to the urban services agreement that's in existence. The original one, I believe, was in 1991, between the city of Tallahassee and the property owner. And it kind of came about with kind of a request to donate or dedicate some land at one point, and then there was another perpetual drainage easement that was requested, and then the blueprint project kind of going through the property, as well as the trail system, the Greenway system that would go around the exterior of the property. It kind of started getting convoluted with the local government needing and asking and requesting for dedications and donations and other rights of way to be set aside. And so they went through the process of doing development agreements to determine how those would be accounted for and whose responsibility they would be. And in that development agreement, it specifically stated that the city of Tallahassee would take the lead on the comprehensive plan amendment, largely because what's kind of driving the timing of it at this moment is the Welaunee Boulevard, the Northeast Gateway project. And so the city is the applicant. At the end of the day, this would need to be, like, the final plan would need to be something that is agreeable to by both the property owner and the local government. It can't be one or the other. And so, we've had conversations with the representative for the property owner, and they seem agreeable to many of the things that we've discussed in the previous charrettes. And so I think when we kind of take the feedback and kind of compare what we've heard across all of these virtual charrettes, as well as the other part of it, and start drafting another plan, we'll have to work closely with the property owner as well to make sure that we get something that's both agreeable to them and then would also be agreeable to the local government, city and county, as we take it to be adopted as part of the comp plan amendment process. So hopefully, I think I answered your question, but if not, let me know and I'll answer anything else.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, thank you for that. That's a good, thorough response. But still, at the end of the day, there will be presumably, civil engineers and master planners to fully document these concepts, right? So is there anything articulated in the agreements that speaks to, say, new urbanism or sustainable communities, that sort of thing? Is there anything, in the agreement about that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Right now we're just doing the kind of the broader planning, making sure that we're coordinating kind of larger area-wide or region-wide concepts. The actual development of the property would be a couple of different steps. Initially, a stormwater master plan would need to be done for the entire site. And then it could be one or more what they call plan unit developments, or PUDs, that would then be done. And those would be done by, it could be done by the property owner, but it most likely would be done by a developer who purchases the property from the property owner. And then you would go through the kind of the individual site plan and then construction. So for the most part, after the master plan process, this would be kind of purely handled by the private sector and then reviewed by the local government through the regular process that all development goes through. In terms of sustainability and new urbanism, I think there are things in the draft master plan now that are in there, but through these conversations, there may be other things that we evaluate and look at. One example is it currently talks about doing Florida-friendly landscape standards, kind of utilizing native plant species and things like that. But in terms of actually getting into neighborhood design, that may be something that we evaluate, and some of those new urbanist concepts we include in here a little bit stronger than what are in there now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Artie. Looks like.
Hey, David.
Robert, you want to respond to that?
Sure. I just wanted to.
We just let them know who you are as well, Robert.
Yes, this is Robert Volpe, and I'm a representative of the property owner. Artie gave a great summary of the history and the plan behind this. And as Artie mentioned, the master planning stage here is the comprehensive planning stage was largely driven by the city and the infrastructure requirements. And it goes back to 2016 was when this initial map was drafted and the initial ideas for this master plan were conceived. And the city has been open and gracious in discussions with the property owner as this process has gone on, and we've participated in these charrettes to mainly listen and answer questions, but also the ideas that have come out through these different discussions. I think as we move towards the adoption hearing, there are some good ideas and some ideas that we are agreeable to and that can be incorporated in. And I think that the planning department has done an incredibly thorough job of allowing for public input from multiple different directions. So like I said, I think Artie did a great job with the summary, and I am also here to answer questions if there are kind of specific questions about agreements or some of the history there. Thanks Devin.
Robert. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much.
I saw your hand go up, and then I got Steve, Martin, and Q right after. Just unmute yourself, Greg, and you'll be good.
Okay, thanks. I have a question and then potentially a follow-up comment. So looking at the green dashed line that surrounds the property, it looks like that is follows the property, and then you get to right where you just were with your hand there, and then it looks like it ends and crosses the street but doesn't continue down on both sides of Miccosukee Road. Is that correct? That the Greenway, and I heard, it's currently a Greenway, but Artie, I heard you say trail, and so I hope what we're envisioning is a Greenway and not just a suburban multi-use trail that's paved or whatever it is, but I hope it's more of a Greenway. But I don't see that it's on both sides of Miccosukee Road in that one stretch. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, this is the existing Miccosukee Greenway right here as it exists today. These are houses over here, where people actually live. And
that's where I live.
Yeah. This right here, I believe page 102 of the Greenway's master plan that speaks to this, and it talks about it's a 75 to 150 foot greenway that contains a trail within that goes around the perimeter, and that kind of is subject to like the environmental conditions and other facts. So yeah, it's not just a skinny, super straight, paved path, just wrapping around it. The idea that it is a wider swath of land, and then the greenway just meanders around the trees, or whatever the final alignment ends up being to kind of work it in there.
So the area that is adjacent to where the existing greenway is on, I guess, the south side of Miccosukee Road.
Right here?
No, where right by Miles, the same side as Miles Johnson. Yeah, so that stretch. Right. There's no intended greenway on the other side of Miccosukee Road there?
I cannot answer that question. This is the existing greenway right now, but we cross here, and then you ride your trail down here, and then you cross back here, and they got some of the single track sections, things like that here and then here. I cannot answer that question for you. I don't know if it goes here or if it's this part right here. I don't know if Robert or somebody else can clarify that.
Artie, do you know on that one if that trail goes on the other side of the road?
The trail itself, I don't believe would, but that would be part of the Canopy Road protection zone, and so it would not be developed kind of the way we think of like development along a street. It just wouldn't necessarily technically be part of the greenway. But that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be green via some other mechanism, and that would be the Canopy Road protection zone.
Mindy, do you mind just saying what the Canopy Road Protection Zone is width-wise there, just to give us an idea?
Sure. The Canopy Road Protection Zone is measured 100 feet from the center line of the Canopy Road.
So we're looking from the center line into that property, 100 feet. We wouldn't have anything other than the Canopy Road Protection Area.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks, Mindy.
My follow-up comment to that is, my background's I'm a wildlife ecologist, and to me, 150, 200 foot wide swath of land that includes a multi-use trail doesn't function as a wildlife corridor. It's not sufficient habitat to truly function as a greenway, or what I envision as a greenway. And so I would encourage this property to include a viable wildlife corridor as part of this project, because again, I feel like, you know, we're giving away density here, and there's impact to adjacent neighborhoods for all kinds of traffic, wildlife, viewing, all the other stuff. I mean, the list goes on, but I don't feel like a small swath of trees in a linear fashion truly forms a viable wildlife corridor. And so I'd like to see connectivity with the preserved habitat related to this corridor. In addition, that Florida Natural Areas Inventory identifies some pretty unique characteristics what's in the existing greenway. There's red oak woods in that greenway, which it's a pirate community, requires frequent fire. You know, land managers do a great job burning it now. My concern is that there's only certain places that you can blow the smoke when you're doing prescribed fire. If you have development to the east and to the west of where you are, it's hard to control your smoke and not impact neighborhoods. So it's going to create challenges for them to effectively manage the existing greenway with fire. So I would like to see something in place, something like what was done in Sarasota County. They have a notice of proximity. It's called the Blackburn Sector Plan, where it notifies the homeowners at the time it's incorporated in their land development regulations and their comprehensive plan. It notifies the landowners that they're buying property at the time of sale in an area that is surrounded by areas where there's ongoing land management activities, and basically notifies them that there is prescribed fire in the area, there is exotic plant removal, things of that nature. And so I think it's a good communication tool to better let people know what they're buying into when you're building up against, you know, and you're creating a wildland urban interface. And so my two comments on that are, one, I'd like to see that greenway serve as sufficient in size to be a viable wildlife corridor. And two, continue with the land management to preserve the red oak woods and the pirate communities. And so notifying the landowners so they're not complaining that, you know, the land management activities are now impacting their neighborhood. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for the example from Sarasota too. I think that gives us some good information to look into. Artie, you have a response on that?
I did have a question. Did you say it was the Blackburn Sector Plan?
I can send you a copy of it, but they incorporated a notice of proximity, but it was the Blackburn Sector. It might be Blackburn Sector Point Plan.
Okay.
But I can send you a copy of it.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I always appreciate examples from other communities of, you know, when we're talking about things that we want to do here, if there's a good example from somewhere else. So yeah, I would greatly appreciate that.
Hey, Artie, I can probably I'll talk after this, but we've done that in other areas. You know, when I was in a prior capacity, we just basically refer to them as a smoke easement.
Okay. Sounds good.
Stephen, coming back to you. Okay.
Yeah, what was just said prompted a couple of questions too.
Sure.
Concerning the wildlife and the wildlife corridor, what's going to be with I-10? About 7 years ago, I came to the city and county commissioners. Rick Miner wasn't there then. And I talked to them about wildlife corridor and asked them what they were going to do about it. And they really didn't know, but I threw out the idea because somebody had mentioned down south on 75, south of Ocala. You're familiar with it. It goes across 75. If they were going to put an open corridor like that, and I was concerned in particular at that time about the wildlife that's on the portion of it now that's being developed west or south, depends how you look at it, of I-10, and where that wildlife was going to be able to escape to. Do you know, when you talk about wildlife corridor, what we're talking about with I-10? Because I saw this pedestrian overpass that I think was from something like based on one out in California, which wildlife could not use at all. is there anything planned that's going to be a wildlife corridor over I-10? Is there anything planned in that capacity?
Artie, would that be you, Mindy, or Dan that we'd want to come to on this?
I can take a first stab at the response, and then if Dan or Mindy want to chime in, they can. I don't know specifically about I-10, but I do know that as we were coordinating with Fish and Wildlife on this, they did bring up the idea of ensuring that any of the roadways kind of or in this property have those kind of facilities. I'm very familiar with the one that you're talking about near Ocala on 75, but there's also wildlife underpasses.
Right.
I'm trying to remember the name of the facility that goes through the Ocala National Forest. It's the Black Bear Scenic Byway. It's one of the state roads, has underpasses instead of overpasses. So I think there are different options that we'll be looking at. We'd have to coordinate with the state state and federal highway administration with regards to interstates. But as far as the other facilities, that's definitely something that we've been in discussion with Fish and Wildlife about.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Now-
this is Dan, Steve, and I'll just kind of caveat here and carry on with Artie's discussion. Currently there is no wildlife overpass, so wildlife is currently cut off across I-10.
That's right.
Blueprint is contemplating and is not yet committed to an equestrian bridge, equestrian-friendly type pedestrian bridge on the west end of the study area over I-10, which would be wide enough and vegetated to allow horses to cross safely without being spooked by the traffic below. Now, that would not specifically be considered a wildlife crossing, but you could contemplate that wildlife could use that, and it would be large enough to accommodate horses, so therefore could accommodate other wildlife as well.
Okay, because that's a lot better than the one I had seen a few years ago, and that had nothing for wildlife, purely pedestrian. Then the Greenway. Yeah, the Greenway does well for the Miccosukee communities, but Centerville Road, and granted, I live on the other side of I-10, and we've been greeted with canopy development. I certainly hope that they're going to do a better job protecting the Centerville Road side and the arch than they did in the toe. I'm sure Ms. Mindy Moorman knows what I'm talking about, but there were significant violations by that developer. And I certainly hope that when it comes to future development, anticipating already potential problems, that we do a better job at preventing, because it takes a long time to recover what was lost. So I do hope that Centerville Road gets something out of this, because it hasn't gotten much in the past. Then Robert Volpe, I was thinking Gary Hunter might be here, because I've seen him when I watched other meeting, and I've seen when I looked at the beginning of them, I've seen him at quite a few of them representing the owners, and I was hoping there'd be somebody here on behalf of the owners. Is Robert Volpe still here? Robert?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay. Talking about the history. Yeah, as Gary Hunter said, I guess, goes back 30 years. I've got right here starting in May 17th, 1989. City Commission approved, I guess on July 18th of 1989, development of an agreement with Welaunee Plantation for urban services. So this really started back in 1989. Mr. Volpe, would you say that this has been a smooth and open process over the last 30 years with the development of all of Welaunee? Would you say that has gone well?
I believe it has been a very open process.
Would you say it has been smooth and gone well?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh, really? Because I've got some newspaper headlines concerning Canopy. Residents cry foul as Canopy Pond floods road. State agency.
Well, Mr. Martin, I'm going to have to interrupt you. This is a conversation about the Welaunee Arch.
Well, the best predictor of the future is the past. And if I heard people who are representing the landowners be willing to acknowledge that things haven't worked well in the past, and that in the future we're going to do our best to prevent those problems that have arisen, I think there'd be a lot more grounds to have a little bit of faith right now I can see reason for people to be concerned about this based on what's happened in the past. And your unwillingness to acknowledge that, just like Mr. Hunter's, I think gives additional reason for concern versus if you were willing to acknowledge we could have done better, we made mistakes, but I haven't gotten any indication of that from you. And also, Mr. Volpe, are you on the Planning Commission?
Yes, sir, I am on the Planning Commission.
Again, they've had people on the Planning Commission who are either friends of the family or tied to the development.
Steven.
The time, which
Steven.
I question. All right.
Steven, this is Devin. I'm going to step in real
Well,
quick.
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Martin.
I hope you listened.
Steve, I'm going to step in real quick. I think it's good to see that they're on the call here listening to everything that's being said. They've been on every call so far. So I think that gives them some credit to be here. Really appreciate it if you wouldn't go directly at them that way, and we could just have a general conversation with everyone. So
I wish if they could just say, yeah, we've made mistakes. We're sorry for what's happened, because there's a lot of people here who are not happy with Canopy. You know that as well as I do.
Understood. But let's keep the discussion about the arch here, and let's move forward.
Again, the best predictor of the future is the past.
Okay. Thanks, Devin.
Hello?
Mr. Martin,
Hello?
if I may, I just want to clarify. I am here representing Powerhouse, the owner of the Arch property. I'm not here on behalf of any other property owner.
Can't own the toe.
Let's
they
move
did
on.
at one time. Yes, sir.
Let's move on.
Excuse me? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
This is Julie.
Yeah, my name is Julie Hauserman. Is this an okay time for me to make a comment or ask a question?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, so I was a reporter for the Democrat when the comp plan was written, and I covered all the hearings. And later on, I went to work for 1,000 Friends of Florida and the Trust for Public Land, and I consulted with the Nature Conservancy and a bunch of different groups. And I work for Earth Justice now. I want to, first of all, and I live, I'm an affected landowner. I live right there at the corner of Miccosukee and Crump Roads. And, I want to say thank you so much for the work that has been done on Welaunee over the years, particularly having the view sheds and some of the innovative, land use measures that we've had on the property, and appreciate that very much. I have a lot of concerns about the densities, some of the densities that are proposed for this portion of the development. And I appreciate y'all having the charrette so that we can air some of these things. One of the questions that I had that probably hasn't been brought up is, one of the things that we really value out in Miccosukee is the dark sky. And we actually have FSU use, some of the astronomy people come out to use our field because it's so completely dark. We have this amazing resource because we have the Red Hills all up above us, and really no light pollution in any way. And I'm not sure at what point in the process, this is my question, at what point in the process would that be an appropriate time to maybe ask about dark sky lighting and better options for lighting? When would be the appropriate time to bring that up in the planning process?
I think it's great that you're bringing it up now while we're here, just so we can get it out on the table. That is something that would probably move more into the PUD phase of the process.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about that? We have MJ on, I think, as well, that may be able to speak on it. Either one of you guys want to address that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that I think bringing it up now is a good point. Because any PUD that comes along will have to be consistent with this master plan. And so, and I've heard the dark sky come up with regards to this area before. We were originally looking at kind of this area as part of the land use element update. And I do remember specifically as we were doing the outreach for the update of the comp plan, that coming up. And so that's something that I'm glad is coming back up again as a refresher from those conversations.
Thanks, sorry. Greg, give me just 1 second. I want to reach out. We have Josh Gold that's on as well that hasn't spoke yet. Josh, I wanted to see if you have any questions. And you can just unmute yourself if you want to speak.
I'm not representing anybody. I'm just a citizen out. past Miccosukee, past Crump. Just now learning about some of the plans and some, I don't know what rumors, what facts to learn more, but where the urban lines might be changing, timeline of development, a lot of concerns that they've talked about, but not a whole lot to do about, but just wanting to learn more information and see how it is going to affect, where we are in that area, where that urban line is drawn. I was trying to read the map of the orange, and I know you said 2025 for the opening across I-10. Is there a timeline for that kind of northeast section, or is there any plan there? Or is that just in the future?
Floyd, do you want to talk about that?
You're talking about the 2025 on this road here?
And just general timelines of anything else for the property? There's no timelines that we're aware of as of right now.
Yeah, all of this, there's no timeline whatsoever for anything. No one's expressed interest in buying it. No one's come in and talked to us. It's strictly been the property owner coming in and trying to, make some generalizations about his property after they've given up, this for the Greenway and kind of talked through that, talked about the drainage easement here, talked about the north-south connection here. So it kind of makes sense to say, okay, maybe you just start looking at, holistically at the overall parcel so it's not so piecemeal. This is the only thing that really has some kind of timeline. As Dan said earlier, we know there's going to be potentially some type of crossing here, blueprint studying where this north-south road to go. This is just kind of drawn on here. This is not any kind of proposed alignment. It's going to connect somewhere here. And then I believe Dan said earlier, starting in 2022 or 2023 with the expected completion around 2025. To kind of run up, just have an overpass here and running up at wherever it ends up, up in that area.
Thanks, Floyd. I do want to stop for a second and just let everyone know we are at 7:30, and I know we started a little bit late, and I'd like to do the full hour, which would take us to about 7:45. If nobody has any issues with that, I'd like to keep us going for at least another 15 minutes to get a full hour. Everyone okay with that? Just get a nod? All right, that's all of you. If you have to go, you're welcome to hop off, but stay on if you can. And with that, Greg, you were the next one that had a question, I think, to come back out. So just unmute yourself and go for it.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to reiterate the dark skies comment. That's one of the primary reasons I moved out to this area. We looked in Killearn, we looked at Southwood, we looked through, a bunch of areas, and coming and touring this area at nighttime was one of the reasons that we moved specifically to this area. So I agree. I don't know at what point in the development process those type of considerations get incorporated, but definitely management of sky glow and maintaining dark skies, and just reiterating the concerns with the densities as well, and making the point that just because you plan it out doesn't mean it's not sprawl. I mean, I lived in South Florida where I saw PUDs go in and it kept moving the urban service boundary, and so I don't think that the larger size lot ranchettes is necessarily a bad thing if it's more compatible with the existing neighborhoods. So just managing the cluster development to areas that are further towards higher density and keeping the less dense areas out towards the areas that are less dense, and incorporating by default less light pollution is a good idea. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate the comment. Anyone else out there? Will, I see your hand.
Yeah, do I need to unmute or?
You're good. I hear you.
Okay. I've had the fortune of living in Tallahassee for 50 years, and for 30 plus years, I've known the Davenports and the Metler family. We are incredibly fortunate that they have been the landowner for the last 50 years there. They are very, and I don't have any dog in the fight with them. I do have a house on Shamrock, and my family does own property that is under Bexar, which is south of I-10. So that's why I'm in the game, but here today. But the Metlers are as fine a people as you could ever meet, and I don't know if that means anything to anybody out there that are listening, but tremendous stewards of our community, not just this section of land. So My question would go to Artie on Thornton Road, on the extension, and also on the east-west access through the new plan development. Why haven't we gone ahead and put that in front of Governor DeSantis and the state cabinet? I don't know why we would be holding off on that.
You want to tackle that, Artie?
Sure. I'll say that I know that like conversations stalled under the previous governor. I don't know the status of conversations with the current governor. I know that kind of moving that crossing from Arundel to Thornton will require coordination with the state and approval there, but I actually don't know at this point. I can look into it, but I don't know where those conversations are.
Artie, are the commissioners aware of the necessity to go in front of the cabinet on that particular roadway?
I can't speak for the commissioners for sure, but I know that like city administration is, and I believe they've had conversations with the city commissioners on that.
Hey, Will,
to the best of my knowledge.
This is Rick. I've been on the county commission for a short time. I don't recall it coming up in the 2 years that I've been on the commission. I can't speak for
I said that.
Yeah. I can't speak for the city commission, but within the 2 years on the county side, I can't recall it ever coming up.
That's why I wanted you to know about it, Rick, because
Great, thank you.
That's something that you guys have to work on with Artie and everybody.
I appreciate
that's a planned access route.
No, thanks.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate those comments. I'm going to come to Beth Hollister. One thing I wanted to note, Beth actually sent a message that said, when we were talking earlier about the canopy roads and the open spaces, she said there may be an opportunity for the canopy protection zone to the open spaces, like putting those two together. So just want to throw that out there that she was talking about that side of like the greenways and trails and canopy protection zone, just all looking at how you can combine those. But with that, Beth, I want to open it up to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
There you are.
Yeah. So actually, as just a last comment, I wanted to just say thank you so very much to Mr. Robert Volpe for participating in this. I just think it shows a lot of commitment and interest in the owner in coming up with a really good project, which is I think sometimes it's forgotten that it's not just brick and mortar. It's also the process and the participation with the broader community. So I just wanted to say thank you so very much. Thank you.
Robert, you want to respond to that?
Yes. Well, thank you. I've been on all of these charrettes, and I really do appreciate that comment. I know that the property owners, as Mr. Mester said, have been community partners for decades, and were integral in the Miccosukee Canopy Road Greenway. They are committed to the other greenways and open space, and they've been good stewards of this land for decades and members of this community for decades. And so participating in this process is just part of that. And again, like I mentioned earlier, Artie and Devin, the planning department has gone above and beyond with having this many public engagement opportunities, and with this level of depth to be able to have a conversation for an hour with a handful of very engaged, interested community members. This is a very thorough way to engage the community. So thank you for the comment, and thank you to the planning department.
Thanks, Robert. I want to go back to Julie and see if Julie had any other questions before we hit our time limit on here. Julie, did you have anything else? You can just unmute yourself if you want to speak.
Well, I guess there are two things. One is I would like to also second what Greg said about the power lines. I don't know that that's the landowner's responsibility, but I definitely we experience the same problem all the time. And I also would second the problems with the canopy road trimming and our reliability. And also, I reviewed pretty closely the Keep It Rural comments, and they looked pretty good to me. And I particularly the needs for some more studies to nail some of these land use ideas down. And I appreciate the work on that. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie. And thanks for being here. Mindy, you were waving like you had a comment you want to come in. Just unmute yourself.
Yeah, just real quick on the power lines. I can't speak to the transmission lines. Those are a bit different because of the size and energy going through them. But the city does have an undergrounding program for power lines. It's been in place since the 80s, where they will connect the property with, they'll underground the feeder lines, and then the property owner will underground the personal lines. So, and everyone, according to Rob McGarrah, everyone who's done a new development since that program was put in place has taken advantage of that. So those are all the lines that you see going along the streets, and the lines to each individual structure usually gets put underground. So I don't see any reason why those wouldn't be undergrounded using that program. The transmission lines obviously are a question. So I just wanted to put that out there so people knew that program existed.
Thanks, Mindy. I appreciate you putting that out. Want to come back to Josh again real quick. Josh, did you have any other questions as well?
Not in particular. Thank you all for this and kind of explaining that. I mean, I second, third, whatever the power line, just because power has been out twice in the past 2 days. Nothing you really do about that, but no, it's good just to be able to see what's going on and learn. I know we've only been out here for a couple of years, but Tallahassee area for a while, so glad to be involved, and thank you all.
Yeah, thanks for being on the call tonight. Will, I saw your hand go up, and I think Commissioner Minor wanted to jump in too. So let me come to you, Will, and then we'll finish out with Commissioner Minor.
Yeah, just real quick on the transmission lines. They're buried in canopy, but they pop up in the middle, and then they go to the interstate. And so it's about a 2-mile stretch on those transmission lines. And that's why I just was hopeful that the commissioners that were, listening would maybe look at that as an action item.
Thanks, Will. I think they're all hearing you on that. Commissioner Minor, I see you, and then Stephen has one more question. So I'll come to you, Commissioner Minor, and then we'll end with Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Devin. I just want to thank everybody again for joining us for this last hour. I've been to, I think, 8 of the 9 charrettes that we've had so far, or something like that. Artie and Devin and the whole team have really done a good job. I've learned something new at every single charrette because the people calling in have brought different perspectives in, and it's been really helpful. I don't want to put words in Robert's mouth, but as we've gone through the charrettes, it does seem like we're starting to have some common ground that we've identified. I think what the consensus might be, and this is from all different sides of this, there might be a consensus emerging where I think we all might want something that is more detailed and more specific than the current Welaunee Master Plan that the 2 commissions have reviewed, but something that's not as specific or detailed as what was in the Welaunee Tow. I think there's some type of sweet spot that we need to arrive at that will make everybody happy. Something that benefits the community as well as something that is satisfactory to the landowners. So it's been really encouraging these last few charrettes because that does seem to be some elements of common ground that we can forge some agreement on. So that's been really helpful. What I hope when this comes back to the joint comp plan commissions, both the city and county, what I personally will hope to see is some options that are presented to the city and county commissions where we can move beyond the work that's been done on the current master plan to something that has more specificity. Working with Robert and Gary Hunter and who are representing the landowners to find something that has some agreement from everybody. I think that is possible, and I think that is I think we're veering toward that direction. So I just want to thank everybody for doing this. I believe that these charrettes are having a very positive impact on the discussions that I'm hopeful will lead to a master plan that is gonna make everybody people will find, I think, an improvement upon the current master plan. I know people working very hard on the current one, but I think with guidance from the public, I think the commission can work with the team to have something that's even better. So, Devin, Artie, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, Commissioner. Stephen, go ahead with the final question.
Okay, well, thank you for coming back to me. I wasn't sure you were going to. I just wanted to say, I moved across from the toe off Centerville Road in 2003. Never would I have expected what's been put on the other side, known as Canopy. Never would I have anticipated that. We would not have moved here. But I got to know that land. I got to know it well before they put it there. I don't know if anybody has any idea where I'm coming from, but that land had a value as it was, and I sorely miss what I used to be able to do over there. I pray that they preserve part of this so that people can get the valuable kind of experience that you can't put into words, intangible, that I used to be able to get walking across Welaunee or Centerville Road to what's now Canopy. It's nothing like it was. I will give the family credit for having preserved that land long enough that I was able to enjoy it. I just wish somehow we could have preserved it as it was. But thank you for letting me come back. And I have a strong attachment to the land, so I'm very passionate about this and speaking from my heart. But thank you for recognizing me again and allowing me to speak again. Thank you so much. I think this is a valuable meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks for being on here tonight, too. With that, I just want to thank everybody that joined us. There is a second part to this charrette that Artie alluded to in the beginning. It's on the same webpage where you signed up for this charrette. If you have time, go and fill out the survey that's there. We're looking to get information. And if you have anyone that you can send that to, we're looking to get information from them as well. So please pass that along. And with that, again, we appreciate everyone being here. Commissioner Minor, appreciate you being here. And Chris, thank you for representing Commissioner Deloge. And with that, if anyone wants to join one of our other ones, we have three more charrettes coming up. So feel free to jump on any of those that we have left to come up. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Devin. Thanks, Artie.